Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Ben Moskalensky Show, Show 14. Sorry if I sound a little bit tired. I just got back from the movies. More specifically, Kingsman: The Golden Circle. Pretty good movie. Don't listen to Rotten Tomatoes. They only gave it like 50%, or at least the critics did. I thought it was more of an 80 to 85% movie. But that's not what we're going to be talking about today, or at least not currently. We're going to be getting into this probably during the free-for-all section and during the movie section. I know it sounds like the entire episode has already been planned out, or at least laid out, but I assure you that is not the case due to the fact that I have not recently, last week I skipped an episode. Sorry also if I sound like I just ate, because I did. I really rushed this, but surprisingly everything is working out great so far. No technical errors. Everything is going smooth as can be. So yes, right now we are going to be talking about Star Wars. And if anyone would like to call in, talk about the topic at hand, stay for a while as long as you're not a spam caller. The number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Now, we will be talking about Star Wars. Now, there is a reason I wanted to bring up this specific topic, and that is because of the fact that there's been some news regarding this recently. Hello, caller, you're live on the air. What's your name?
It's me, Jet.
Sorry, what's your name?
Jet.
Oh, Jet. Hello. Okay, so a little bit of backstory for anyone who didn't know. This is a friend of mine, who I've known for a good bit. We have done some collaboration before. So, Jet, very happy to have you here. Is this the first time you've ever called in?
Yeah.
All right. Well, happy to have you. Happy to have you. So right now we're talking about Star Wars, Jet. And one thing I specifically wanted to bring up was Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. I really wanted to talk about this. I'm going to be talking about this more and more as we approach the release date of Episode 8 and as more news comes in. So, Jet, what do you think they're going to do with Episode 8?
Honestly, I got to be perfectly honest. I don't really know. I haven't been paying much attention lately. I've just had a lot going on. Long story, but yeah.
Well, okay. You have seen Episode 7, I assume? The Force Awakens?
Yeah.
Okay, you have seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, most people don't follow the news. I happen to be one of those people, but one of the people who happens to follow the news, not the other way around. But disregarding the news, because there have been a lot of leaks recently, some fairly high up staff and lower level staff people working on the movie have been leaking a lot of information about Star Wars, including some stuff relating to Luke and Rey. But disregarding all of that. Sorry, what?
I heard about that.
Yeah, so that's kind of a deal right now, but we're not going to be getting into that. We're going to be focusing purely on what is generally known to anyone who's watched the movies. Now, Jet, do you or do you not think that Episode 8 is going to be good? Just purely.
I think it's probably going to be good, but you can never know for sure.
Absolutely. Like, they got a new director for this one, and personally, I think that's a good thing. Now, Jet, did you like Episode 7?
Episode 7 was pretty good. It wasn't the best Star Wars movie ever made, but it was pretty good.
Pretty good. I would probably agree with you. My only major complaint with it is the fact that it was way too much like Episode 4. Do you agree?
I agree.
All right, and if the opinion of two people isn't enough for some of our viewers, let me just give you a basic overlay of the two stories. And if this wasn't self-apparent already, spoiler alert. A young Jedi with unknown origins is left on a desert planet, pretty much orphaned. And meanwhile, the galaxy is undergoing war. When an adventurer, I guess, finds this young Jedi, they they try to get them to work with a rebellion, which is trying to take down an empire led by Sith powers. That's a basic overlay. I mean, I know that's pretty unspecific, but like things go from there. Like, it just overall the movie is very similar to Episode 4, and this was a directing decision by J.J. Abrams, a director who I very much respect, and I like a lot of his stuff. Who he directed Episode 7, and they're actually bringing him back for Episode 9, but not Episode 8. And excuse me, and I think that's a very interesting thing, because on one hand, there are two different ways to look at Episode 7. If you're a normal person, well, no, there are three different ways to look at it. If you are a person who has never seen Star Wars before, just wants to see a new Star Wars, Episode 7 is going to be the best thing since sliced bread for you, because it seems like something completely new and original. If you're someone who has seen the other movies but isn't like some sort of a diehard fan, like lives for Star Wars, breathes Star Wars, and so on, then you probably will not be the biggest fan of Episode 7, since you will recognize that it's too much like Episode 4. If you are a diehard fan of Star Wars, then of course you're going to be a diehard fan of Episode 7, because it's quote unquote for the fans. And my fear is that they're going to do the same thing with Episode 8. And I understand, like, okay, it's been a long time since they've made a Star Wars movie. Maybe they're a bit rusty, but, like, there's so much hype going into Episode 8. Not quite as much as Episode 7. But then again, I don't think any movie will have the hype that Episode 7 had. But I just feel like it might be like it'll be more of a bad thing than a good thing. Do you think all this hype is going to be in Episode 8's favor, or do you think it's going to be more of a bad thing, Jet?
I'm sorry, repeat the question. I think my phone just glitched out for a second there.
All right. Do you think that all of the hype and all of the pressure is going to be more of a motivator, or it's going to scare them and they're going to try and do something safe, like copy Episode 5?
Most likely somewhere in between, because I know how they're going to start the movie is with the rebel base from The Force Awakens getting attacked, so that might cause some overlays with Episode 5, but I think they're probably just because they're going to get a new director in there, they might be trying to do something new, but I could sort of go either way on this one.
Mm-hmm. But why do you think it's going to open up? I didn't see anything like that in the trailers or in the leaks. I mean, I could be wrong, but why do you think it's going to open up like that? Just because of the fact that you think that they are going to, at least to an extent, clone Episode 5?
Because that was actually, I think, the earliest leak of that. That was actually one of the few leak things I saw was someone mentioning that was how the new movie was going to get, or at least was going to happen very early on in the movie.
Interesting. And if anyone else would like to join us for this conversation, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, if you'd like to call in, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Jet, if we don't get any other callers in the near future, you could stay as long as you'd like, or you can go. It would be nice to have a warning before you go, but just no pressure involved staying or going. We'd love to have you here on the show. Now, another thing, I also kind of wanted to talk about the movie after the next movie. I know I'm planning ahead a bit, but hey, why not? Are you aware of the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie?
What?
Let me repeat that. Did you hear that I believe it's going to be the next Star Wars story is going to be about Obi-Wan Kenobi?
I don't think I've heard that.
Well, that's pretty much it. I mean, I think I kind of just described it. They're planning on doing a whole story with Obi-Wan, and the whole thing about him. Now, this movie might actually be very interesting because there's a lot we don't know about Obi-Wan if you really look at it. Like there's the whole past with him before he became a Jedi, like the whole thing that happened with was it the Queen of which was, I believe it was either a princess or a queen of the Mandalorians. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think it was princess.
Princess of the Mandalorians. There was some sort of
That was, I think that was only in Legends. The new movies are only exist in the canon continuity, so.
Actually, I was a massive fan of the Clone Wars, not the first Clone Wars, the second one, which in my view is terribly underrated. Like I thought the Clone Wars that ended a couple of years back, I believe in 2014 or something, that Clone Wars, the newer one. In my view, it's terribly underrated, but I watched every episode of that show, and I believe that show is canon because we know that Rebels is canon. I believe it's been confirmed. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it has been confirmed that Star Wars Rebels, the show that is still ongoing, is confirmed to canon. And we know that the Clone Wars is confirmed as canon to Rebels. That is a fact. That is 100% a fact. So, assuming that my sources are correct in saying that Rebels is canon to the main franchise, that also means Obi-Wan's relations with this princess are canon. Is Legends canon?
No, Legends are no longer canon as of April 25th of 2014.
I see. Yeah, I never got into Legends. I don't know why. Like, so many people say they loved it. I saw it. I thought it was okay. I didn't love it, but hey, that's just me. But the thing about Rebels is, the thing about the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie is, like, it could be interesting because of the fact of, like, his past, and there were tons and tons and tons of hints and little tidbits revealed about their relationship during the Clone Wars. Not to mention, we don't really know what happened in the years between episodes 3 and 4, like Obi-Wan on the run. That would be kind of interesting. Just like those are the only two main time periods I can really think of. Or actually, 3. I just thought of the third. Excuse me. Obi-Wan as, like, way even before he, like, as a kid, like the whole thing, like how he got to know the Mandalorian princess and like how he got to know the Jedi Council. Like, all of these things could be fit into an Obi-Wan movie, and I see that working fine. You want to know what I don't see working fine?
What? And by the way, just so you know, most of that past was actually covered in the old Legends continuity, so.
But again, Legends isn't canon. We don't know. I mean, it could be correct, but because the way it works is the main Star Wars franchise is canon to everything, but not necessarily everything is canon to the Star Wars franchise.
Yeah.
Sure. Anyways, but you want to know what, in my view, is not going to go well?
What? The
Han Solo show. They're planning on making a young Han Solo show, and well, what is your opinion on this, Jet? What do you think about the young Han Solo show? You think it's gonna fall flat on its face, or do you think it's gonna do good?
I'd say probably in that case.
Sorry,
I haven't heard about it now.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. Would you mind repeating that a bit louder?
I haven't even heard of that before, so I can't say, although knowing how those sorts of spin-offs usually work out, I'd say most likely it's just going to fly flat on its face and then get crushed like the Terminator in the original Terminator.
Thank you so much for that movie reference. That actually made my day. So I see your point, because another big thing that you didn't mention is, first of all, these spin-off shows don't typically do well. Like, I'm not the biggest fan. I know you are, Jed, but I'm not the biggest fan of The Big Bang Theory. I don't think it's a terrible show. I'm just not a diehard fan of it. Although I am a very big fan of Sheldon. Sheldon, in my view, is hilarious. And to those of you who don't know, there's been a recent series started called Young Sheldon, about Sheldon as a kid. The problem with that show, I mean, I haven't seen it. Maybe the ratings are terrific. Maybe the show is hilarious. I don't know. But in my view, a fundamental problem with that show is the fact that it is not Sheldon. Unless they do some weird, like, flashback thing where, like, it's part of him as a kid, part of him as an adult. And even that would be kind of weird. But the thing is, it's not Sheldon. And Obi-Wan has had many different faces throughout the years. There was one actor for the prequels, another for the original series. There are a ton of different voice actors for him in different shows. There has always been one consistent Han Solo. Always been one Han Solo. And I fear that a young Han Solo show is gonna just do terribly, because it will not feel like you're watching Han Solo. It'll feel like you're watching some Star Wars rip-off canon fan fiction turned show. It will not feel like a Star Wars. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying?
What?
Do you see what I'm saying? That the show will not work because people, in my view, are sorry about that audio bug out, everybody. But anyways, we're back now, and we'll now be moving on to our next segment, which is going to be on history, more specifically the early days of America. I was recently in social studies class, and our teacher was talking about this, and I found it fascinating. But if anyone would like to pitch in, call. The number is 719-284-5873 with the PIN 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the PIN 24777. I know it may seem like I'm trying to kick you off the show, Jet, but I assure you that is not the case. I love having your call. Just if anyone else would like to call in, please don't feel shy. Anyways, we are now going to be going on to history. Now, Jet, what would you say is the most interesting thing while studying, when you were studying, or if you currently are studying, the early days of America, like late 1700s, early 1800s? What in your view is the most interesting thing about that general period of history in our country?
Probably that these people were able to start a republic when at the time they really didn't have much to go off of. I mean, at that time, would have been run by just monarchies and monarchies alone for the last 1,700 years. I mean, there haven't been a republic in nearly 2,000 years by that point, and the idea of individual liberties was at that time a pretty young philosophical idea, only been around for about 150 years. Really, all things considered, it's amazing the new republic didn't just blow off and implode on itself.
That's what. Well, then again, maybe it's. I mean, in some people's eyes, maybe it is about to implode on itself. But that's a separate section for that's a separate section for a separate time. Right now, we're going to be talking about history. The most interesting thing to me is, do you know about all the quarrels relating with President George Washington, John Adams, and Thomas Jefferson, and James Madison, I suppose?
Yeah.
Well, to those of you who don't, I'm going to give a brief history. So right now we are a fully fledged country, but we're kind of limping along. Like, things are really going tough. We got national debt. We got serious problems with other foreign nations. Like we got a lot of threats, basically both domestic and abroad. I mean, just things are really rough for us. But going into the domestic thing, the thing I find most interesting is how everything was resolved. Like, as an example, you look at Thomas Jefferson and John Adams. Thomas Jefferson, correct me if I'm wrong, Thomas Jefferson had a very what's the term? Pro states' rights. That's it, states' rights. They were very for states' rights. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes. And I believe James Madison supported him on that. Both of which, and actually everyone I'm talking about, in my view, are like complete awesome people, like complete history makers, not in a bad way. They're all really cool people. So if I give away my opinions, I assure you I'm not disrespecting one of our presidents. And like, they were very for states' rights. And one of the things I heard actually is that i.e. James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, and other Democratic Republicans, which AKA what is now the Democratic Party, they imagined America as small farms. They imagine it as a bunch of small farms. Everyone kind of helped themselves, and we all kind of coexisted, but not really, sort of thing. Whereas John Adams had more of a vision of what actually happened. A very strong central government with big cities. And there are actually some very interesting points. Like, as an example, John Adams, during his presidency, passed the Alien and Sedition Acts, which were really tough on immigrants. Not immigrants, sorry, aliens. People who were in the country legally, but they weren't yet citizens. These Alien Sedition Acts were very tough on them. And, sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there. And Thomas Jefferson and, well, okay, at the time the country was very anti-France because of the XYZ affair, in which the French tried to bribe the Americans. The French tried to get a bribe from the Americans in order to meet their minister, so they could talk about all kinds of, or their king or something like that, so they could talk about peace dealings, or at least a general deal to talk about what they're going to do with the whole situation with the French Revolution at the time. So there's a very big push for anti-immigrants in the time of the country. And this was and at this point, pretty much everyone was on board. Federalists, which is now the Republican Party, and Democratic Republicans, which are now the Democratic Party. And the thing that I find so interesting is how the resolution came to be. Like, as an example, many people considered the Sedition Acts, which were the part where you could not write anything bad against the government. Like, no, you can't write anything bad about the government. That's what the Sedition Acts did. Violated the First Amendment. So they came up with the Kentucky and Virginia resolutions, in which a state cannot, and listen to how I'm phrasing this, a state does not have to follow a law which it deems unconstitutional. It can't just put away any law it wants. If a bill violates a constitutional or several constitutional rights, they are not allowed to follow it. And this isn't like they didn't have a Wikipedia page to look up, or a Google to look up how to form a country, how to unify a country. They had to come up with all these different things. And that's what I find most fascinating, is how all these different things were resolved, like the making of the Bill of Rights. Like, many anti-federalists were concerned that their rights would not be protected via the Constitution. Henceforth, the Bill of Rights being made, in which people do not get all the power, but they still have, and I quote, the rights to life, liberty, and unalienable happiness. Sorry, what did you say?
It's pursuit of happiness.
Sorry, pursuit of happiness. Right, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. I don't know how I forgot that. But that's the thing that I just find so interesting, is how it was all resolved. Jack, can you think of any other examples of this?
Then, are we counting examples of this sort of thing going on today, or?
As long as it's in some way or another tied in. I mean, but we don't really have much of this today. Can you think of any examples of this happening in today's time?
When you actually look at it, there's a lot of it. For example, in Colombia, it had very weak institutions and was essentially a failed state for over 100 years. And nowadays, it's actually, I think, one of the strongest republics in all of South America now.
But they had. Sorry, keep going. I didn't think you were done. Keep going.
It's so interesting because only 20 years ago, they were barely keeping their heads above the water between the FARC and a couple other groups that name escaped to me. They were just basically a failed state.
Well, I don't know too much about the situation over there, but the thing is, though, they had something to go off of. Am I correct? Or did they just come up with something completely new?
They had a little bit to go off of, but the problem they had was those institutions were incredibly fragile.
Interesting. But yeah, that's one of the things that amazes me, is like, but especially back in that time when there was no, it's not like people could pitch in and give their ideas. It was this very select group of people who had to come up with these ideas. It was the best and brightest, and that's it. Those select few. I believe it was 57 people who wrote and signed the Constitution. 57 people. The population of the United States today is over 300 million. Not 300,000, 300 million. And the fact that a population, sorry, not a population, a population of people in a certain area, 57 people got together for, how long did it take to write and ratify the Constitution?
To simply write it took a little over a year, and to get every single state to accept it took almost another 2 years.
So pretty much 3 years. In approximately 3 years, they were able to determine the fate of a country, and pretty effectively, because America, it was formed 1776, whereas we are here now in the year 2017, almost 2018, and that's over 200 years. That's 220, yeah, about 200 years now. A little bit more than that. About 220, 240-ish years roughly. And it just amazes me how 57 people could determine the fate, or not the fate, sorry. They could completely govern in certain terms. I mean, I'm kind of playing around with the English language here, but they could determine how a country of 300 million people would be run, and they could still keep it going. Like they have kept it going for 200 years now. Traditions, different phases of humanity, different generations have passed, and this Constitution, which has the unalienable rights of people, and all these different things that like tell how the government is run, how the different branches should be run, the whole thing. This entire unbelievably vast system of things was put together by 57 people over 200 years ago.
Yep, it is pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing legacy is done. Now it's, I think, 192 countries on Earth right now. At least 45 are considered to have a Republican form of government. That's pretty impressive when only 300 years ago there were no republics on this entire planet.
It really is, and I believe we were one of the only ones, if not the only one, to truly have a democratic republic at the time. Many people call our country a democracy. Democracy is like communism. It doesn't work. A complete and total democracy does not work. You got to have a democratic republic.
Because if it's too much one way or the other, well, just look at what happened in Athena or Venus or Rome, respectively.
Right. I mean, it'll be complete. Sorry, finish.
In the case of Athena, which was pure democracy, it descended into essentially anarchy, and eventually they were just conquered by the Spartans and the Thebans like they were nothing.
Right. There always has to. Sorry, I keep thinking you're done. Sorry, finish.
And the Roman Republic, which was pure republic, eventually, well, it became the Roman Empire. That system simply did not work.
Interesting. But yeah, this is the thing that amazes me, because a complete like communism in and of itself, like in its entirety, or a complete democracy is, as you said, I think this is a perfect term for it, complete anarchy. It will lead, maybe not immediately, but it will lead to an eventual anarchy in its entirety. Be it the collapsing of countries, or complete communism, or a democracy turned into something like the Soviet Union, which completely 180. It went from a dictatorship. It went from a communistic democracy, pretty much, to, or at least what they envisioned it being, and it was for like the first, I don't know, day, and then it went to hell, effectively, an extreme dictatorship run by Vladimir Lenin and Joseph Stalin. Anyways, we will now be moving on to our third section, our free-for-all section, in which you can talk about anything. I have one thing I want to talk about before that, and if Jet would like to stay, he can float some ideas as for what we can talk about after I come out with the quick announcement. But before my announcement and before either Jet decides to leave or wants to give his idea and stay for pretty much as long as he wants until we get another caller, I'd like to talk, well, again, the number. If anyone else would like to call in, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Now, we will be moving into our free-for-all section, in which we can talk about anything effectively, as long as it's, appropriate for the show that this is and will not stretch into the next section or anything like that. But before we get into that, and Jed, if you'd like to talk about something, I'd love to do that. But before we do that, I'd like to make a quick announcement. People have been very triggered, and trust me, I'm right there with you guys about the spam callers we kept getting. And this was true. I had no idea who was spam, who wasn't. I couldn't find a filtering system, or I couldn't find like a filtering system or any kind of screening system that I could use live on the air. And eventually I was thinking of either shutting down the show or not making it live, which would kind of take away from the whole interest of it. And then I just thought of something. This strategy I'm using will not keep away not keep away all of the spammers, but it will keep 99, not 99, but 95% of the spammers away. I can almost guarantee it. I'm not going to say what it is, because then the people can probably get past that thing. I will not say what it is, but trust me, you are going to start getting a lot less spam calls on the show, if any. Because if these people are dumb enough to call in with a spam call, they are not smart enough to get past my, I guess you can call it a security system. Although doing research, like to fact check myself live on the show, will be harder. I have some ideas as to how I could do that, and I will be doing that soon, so I do not have to rely on Jet, who is extremely knowledgeable, clearly, on these subjects. So we are now entering our free-for-all section. Jet, is there anything you wanted to talk about on the show? Any news, any cool thing that you thought about recently, anything at all that you want to talk about?
Would it be appropriate for the section to talk about what North Korea says they're going to try to do?
As long as it's it's not something you can't find on a rated R movie, then sure, yeah. I mean, like if they're just like the normal threat to nuke us sort of stuff, sure.
Yeah, so essentially saying this time they're threatening to launch a hydrogen bomb, send it into the Pacific, and use the Central Pacific as a test bed. Really? These people do any research before they come up with these ideas?
Wait. Sorry, real quick. By the Central Pacific, you mean Central Pacific, like the ocean?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's smart. Sorry, keep going.
Basically, that's not going to happen for two reasons. One, most likely the professor is going to fall short and land in Japan, which will start World War III. And even if it does get there, the fallout from that explosion, it effectively makes most of the ocean uninhabitable for who knows how many years. It would essentially be the greatest ecological disaster since, I don't even know.
So basically, you're saying that this time, if Kim Jong-un isn't bluffing this time, that's what's going to start World War III?
Yeah, if he was to actually try that and the missile accident to pick off the ground, that would almost definitely start World War III.
You see, here on the Ben Moskalensky show, we have kid-friendly topics. No, I'm not making fun of you. I assure you I'm not making fun of you, Jet. But real quick, just want to give out the number again. If anyone would like to call in, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. And yes, I've memorized this number by heart. People were asking. I have, in fact, memorized this number by heart. You can wake me up at 4 a.m. I'll tell you this number. Once again, if you'd like to call into the show, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Now, Jet, I think what you just talked about is very interesting. I believe it was my last historical segment in which I was talking about the Qin dynasty of China, and I believe I will be coming back for another historical section sometime in the near future. because I always find those interesting, and I think people do as well. Um, I talked about China, more specifically the whole thing with Emperor Qin Shi Huangdi, the first confirmed emperor of China. Um, do you know the basic situation, the whole thing with how he took over China and how he was dethroned?
Isn't that the guy who got thrown off by kicked out by the communists, or am I thinking of someone else?
You are thinking of someone entirely else. We have not even entered. I mean, by the time this happens, this is still in the 200 BCs. So you are thinking of someone else entirely. So let me elaborate to those of you. So let me.
The name got cut out by the speaker.
Oh, I see. Well, anyways, let me give you and the rest of the people the jiffy. So Qin Shi Huangdi was the first emperor, the first confirmed emperor of China. He ruled the fourth and very short dynasty of China, the Qin dynasty, named after himself, and he took over the Zhao dynasty, mostly because he was a brilliant military leader. The thing was, he had no idea how to form a country. I mean, his military tactics were way ahead of their time. They completely destroyed the Zhao, and everyone. And he pretty much forced the entirety of his people to become soldiers. I mean, I believe the population was about half of. I believe the population of China was half of what it was after the population moved. Like a terrible, terrible conquest. And then he had no idea how to form a country. Emperor Qin Shi Huangdi was a brilliant military leader, yes, but he had no idea what he was doing after that. And that's the thing. I feel like Kim Jong-un is in the same position. He has all the resources and everything, and for some reason, unknown to me or anyone else, he just doesn't use them. I mean, look at it this way. And I actually talked about Kim Jong. Wow, Kim Jong-un really makes his way onto this show for some reason. Next thing you know, we'll be co-hosting with him. So look at it like this. I feel like he's in the same position because he has no idea what he's doing. If it came down, God forbid, if it came down to a third world war, North Korea versus United States, who will win that? Who will win? Ignore casualties. Who will win that war? Jet.
USA.
100%. Every single time we will win. Because North Korea does have nuclear power.
China. Well, unless China joins North Korea. In that case, no one wins.
I'm about to talk about that, but just 1 second here. I want to verify this point. North Korea does have nuclear power. I'm not saying they don't. Someone decided it would be a good idea to give a psychopath nuclear weapons. But North Korea does have nuclear weapons. Our country and our president has the world's biggest supply of nuclear weapons. We are the hegemony. To those of you who don't know what hegemony is currently the world's most powerful country. And we soon may be overtaken by China with that label, but that's a separate topic, separate day, may not even ever happen. But as of yet, currently, we are still the hegemony of the earth. And I just don't understand, because I'm sure he knows. He's the leader of a country, be it a communist one, which is very flawed, but he's the leader of a country. He has to know this. He has to know that when it comes down to raw power, we will beat them every single time. Now, if it came down to it, who do you think China would go with? Us or them?
Most likely they'll try to just keep out of it. And that's what they've been doing for the most part so far, and I see no reason that they change doing that in the near future.
Does that answer apply to Russia as well?
Probably, most likely.
Okay.
Is losing its power in nuclear war.
My answer is almost identical to yours, but slightly different. No way. Okay, the thing about Russia and China is, and many spy movies talk about it like this, and it's actually relatively true. Russia and China, their main priorities are Russia and China. All this other stuff with these other countries is great and all, but their main priority is themselves. If it came down to it, they're either going to side with us or they're going to stay neutral. And they're probably going to side with us to prevent, higher tension, like to prevent tensions from escalating towards them. Because, I mean, if both Russia and China go with North Korea, it probably will not end too well for us. But I just cannot imagine that happening. They have to go with the safest option. And the safest option for them is us. You see what I mean?
Yep.
All right. I think that's enough of that that particular deal. We still have a couple minutes left in our free-for-all section. And before we move on to our next topic, whatever you want to talk about for the next 4 minutes, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Again, I'm not trying to boot you from the show, Jet. I'm just trying to get more callers. Now, what would you like to talk about now, Jet?
Yeah. I don't know.
Well,
Maybe
I had a couple. Sorry, finish.
I have an idea.
Okay.
Do you think that Mjolnir armor from Halo would actually work in real life? It's actually possible to create something like that.
Which armor?
Not with modern technology. Mjolnir armor from Halo.
I'm sorry. You have to repeat that. For some reason, that word is not catching on. Which armor from Halo?
The Spartan's armor from Halo. The Mjolnir suit.
Okay, the Spartan armor. Yeah. Well, okay. I think I saw a video on this, or maybe someone told me about this. Might have actually been you. But the fundamental flaw with those suits is how heavy they are. In tech, I mean, I don't see any reason they can't work in terms of pure technology. But like with all the specs and everything and all the different supplies and defense that it has and everything, it would be like wearing a tank on your body and trying to move around at a relatively decent speed. I just can't imagine. If they can somehow lighten up the load in terms of actual density and weight, I don't see any reason why not. Like I mean, I'm no scientist. Like I don't know all the exact specifics. Maybe you do, but I don't. But I just don't see any reason why. I mean, I don't see, other than that one thing, I don't see why not. What do you think?
I honestly think we probably could make a suit even in the way that almost exactly like Mjolnir Mach 4. I'm not sure if shields are actually it's actually physically possible to create practical energy shields, something that small with any technology we'll have even 500 years from now. Or if those shields could protect us against projectile weapons. I'm going to discount Mach 5, 6, and 7 suits, but definitely Mach 4 suits I think we could use. The problem we would also have to figure out whether augmentations were also possible, because in those games, the reason that only Spartans can wear those suits is anyone else would get torn to bits.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Well, again, I'm not aware of the exact specifics, and I'm not going to lie my way through this. But one thing I do know is that for the last roughly 50 years, the technology curve has been amazing, and it's actually been going upward even at a steeper angle than before. I mean, it's amazing what kind of innovative stuff we've been coming up with. Prolonging life, AI, at least to an extent. Gaming software and HD resolution like you wouldn't believe, unbelievable amounts of storage in unbelievably tiny vessels, so on and so on and so on. I mean, the technology is just amazing in so many ways. I know what you're saying. I don't think anything like that, something that could spread apart particles, synthesize particles at that rate consistently, without tearing itself to shreds, at least not within like more than a couple seconds. I don't see that happening anytime in the near future. But you said like the next 500 years, I think we're gonna have way more than people originally anticipated in 500 years. Probably even 100 years from now, things are just going to be astronomically different. We'll probably have like those holodecks from Star Trek Next Gen. We're probably going to have those. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Anyways, we will now. It would be interesting. Anyways, we will now be moving on to our fourth segment. Again, feel free to stay or go, Jet. Love your call, but again, totally your call. I swear we are not forcing you. We are now moving on to our fourth segment. 3 quarters out of 8 into this, or 3 quarters, 3 parts of this out of 8 into this. We're having a 2-hour special today. We are now going to be talking about the American education system, or at least my problems with it. And before we go into opinions or anything else, I want to give away the number one more time. If anyone would like to call in and talk about this, the number is 719-284-5873 with the PIN 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the PIN 24777. Now, Jet, on the whole, do you think the American education system is good or bad? Just on the whole, everything compiled together. Do you think it's good or bad?
Honestly say it's bad, but by the standards of bad education systems, it's pretty good.
Would you mind elaborating on that? Because you said it's bad, but then you said by most standards it's not bad. Would you mind elaborating?
We definitely don't have nearly as good as an education system as like Japan or most of Europe. But ours, compared to like a third world country, is still reasonably good. I mean, it's not like everyone who works for the place is completely incompetent.
Right, but you see, you're comparing us to third world countries.
By the standards of first world countries, I think we might actually have the worst.
I see. Well, you see, you actually never did answer my question. I asked you, would you mind? No, I'm kidding. Actually, I'm not, but I'm not gonna make you repeat all that. But yeah, I see your point, and I have to agree, because no way, like, people make our education system like the worst thing of all time. It's not as terrible as it could be. I'm sure it's worse. You go over to any country, almost any country, probably in Africa, I can guarantee you it's worse, if even existing. But like, we are nowhere near where we should be. And it's not because we don't have the means to do so. If anything, I think we have more than the means. We have more than enough of the means. It's just the fact that we either stick way too much with tradition or we go way past it. Like, on the one hand, we have these huge, massive, bulky books, which we have to constantly carry around with us non-stop. And you gotta sift through the page numbers and like, oh no, there's a missing page, and yada yada yada. Whereas some of the better schools, they now use tablets, phones, etc., that are provided by the school, which are pretty much dirt cheap nowadays, and they just give them away, and for practically nothing. I'm sure school districts could lower the price, and we could have everything we need on a little tablet and like in apps. On the other hand, we stray way too far from certain traditions. Like, on the other hand, like, now we have teachers, not just some, I mean tons and tons, and this applies to my school as well, of teachers getting into politics. I don't just mean discussing politics. I mean like giving their own opinions and trying to manipulate some of the other students.
I've heard about that. I've seen lots of articles around lately talking about how our schools have been turned into quote-unquote political orientation camps. Because really, that's actually the best way to get your ideology to get hold, is to essentially brainwash 1 or 2 generations, especially large generations like the millennials. And if you give them bad pointers on how things really work and stuff, the results in America, well, we saw what happened in the 60s. It does not end well. Right.
And this is the thing too. I wouldn't be mad if people discuss politics in school. In fact, they do. I think many people do it right, where they don't give away their opinion, like teachers. I'm talking about teachers. Students can do whatever, because students are students. They're supposed to discuss their own opinions, be it non-fully fledged ones at that age. And this includes me, by the way, and you. and pretty much every other student, since they're not fully fledged, since we haven't had all life experience yet. But what little opinions we have, with what little research we have, we still have our First Amendment right to discuss them. My problem is with the teachers getting it. Whether or not the teachers' opinions are politically correct, and I don't mean politically correct as in liberal, I mean like actually correct in terms of like this is right, this is wrong kind of thing, like they're actually correct. They still should not be influencing, at least not in that regard. If you have a history teacher influencing a child, telling them that like slavery and the Confederacy, they were bad, that's true. You shouldn't remain completely neutral on that kind of and stuff like that, or like the Nazis were wrong, the Soviets were wrong, stuff like that, because that's stuff that pretty much anyone can fundamentally agree on, except for a couple bad apples. But stuff like opinions on Trump and Hillary and stuff like that, that should be that there should be no opinions given by teachers on those subjects. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Have you ever encountered anything like that?
Well, for one thing, those junior scholastics that our teachers been giving out lately. Those are
yeah.
Those are incredibly politically biased. I'm not going to say to which party to avoid triggering the famously unsympathetic YouTube comments, but yeah, those things are mass propaganda machines. I mean, they occasionally have a good article, but most of those articles are just hurts my eyes to read them. That's saying something.
Yeah, I know exactly your pain. I mean, I can't disagree, because I know the articles you're talking about. We read them. And but the thing is, some of them actually aren't too terrible. I remember the first one we read, the junior scholastic articles. It was like talking about the top 5 countries that are a current threat to ours. And numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5, I completely agree with. I believe they were North Korea, China, Iraq, and Mexico. I forget which order, but I'm okay with that list. I think that's a totally reasonable list. You want to know what the number 1 thing on that list was? I know Jet knows the answer to this. Exactly. Russia. Why? Because they hacked our election. That's totally unbiased. And I wouldn't be so mad if like we got a junior scholastic article on the one hand. On the other hand, we get an article with I don't know, like we have to study a Donald Trump interview. Like a two-sided thing. We do study bias, but both sides of bias. When you are feeding a student one side of bias or the other side of the bias, it's completely unfair. You are silent. That's pretty much it's kind of like indirect censorship. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Anyways, I want to move on to another thing, which also makes me very mad about the American education system, which I love to pound. And Jet, if you like, you can stay. Or if you're feeling a bit tired, no pressure whatsoever. Do what you wish. But another thing I want to talk about is the bureaucracy in schools. It's absolutely insane. Now, I'm sure Sorry, what?
Yeah, did you hear about that woman who was convicted of sexually abusing children, got out of prison, went right back to doing it, and then was caught again?
Unbelievable. I did not hear about this.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's how stupid these people are. They let people who do those sorts of things keep their jobs, have them on paid leave while they're in prison. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, who came up with this system?
Exactly.
I mean, seriously. Yeah.
Exactly. And like, here's an example. I saw a story on the news. This one kid, he tried to stab with a knife another kid in school. Then this kid, but they couldn't prove anything, even though there were stab marks and they had the knife. There was no definitive proof, but everyone knew that it was this guy. Like, it just there wasn't enough proof that it was purposeful to go to jail, even though everyone knew that it was this guy. And they couldn't file a restraining order because they went to the same school. They were not allowed to kick this guy out. Can you believe this? Because you have to follow these rules so unbelievably strict. You are literally, your own health and safety is in danger. I mean, I don't know why they would go back to that school ever, but I mean, unbelievable. And here's like another example. And this is the thing. This is the thing. These people are screwing themselves over. They know it, and they do nothing about it. They just want to get their money. I mean, in my school, we use these computers. Awful, awful computers. Getting a computer to turning it on, doing the old Control-Alt-Delete, and signing in, like logging in and everything, and getting it all working. Not even just doing anything, just getting it working. That in and of itself, if you can get that done in 10 minutes, that is viewed as a good day, a really good day. That is how terribly these things work. It is actually insane. How just terrible it is. And there are other solutions. There are these Chromebooks, Google products, these Chromebooks, and these computers. We now have more modern ones, which are just as bad. But these old ones we had were like from 2003. Like, I mean, even worse than the ones we have now. But these Chromebooks, they are cheaper and they are better. I have a Chromebook that my dad and I use. It's a Chromebook, which is like, it's like a, what's the name of that Apple laptop again? iLaptop or something. What's it called? That Apple laptop?
You're talking about, I don't think you're talking about the Mac, what I have.
MacBook. I'm thinking about MacBook.
Yeah.
So MacBook. It's basically like Google's MacBook. And the thing is, this computer, and this is an older model I'm talking about. Mine can be even quicker sometimes. The slowest time it takes to boot the thing up and get it all working and signing in and everything is 9 seconds. 9 seconds. And these are cheaper. It's not an issue of price. It's an issue of convenience. Because it would take like some more paperwork to sign a deal with Google than it would to do it with Microsoft. They don't care that they're spending more money. They don't care that it's going to be more effort and more pain for everybody. They do it. And they put in some ridiculous funding in some things and nowhere near enough in the other. Like now, a bunch of different, at least in my area, a bunch of different musical programs are being shut down because they just don't have funding. Whereas every single one of our teachers gets a $1,500 PC. What do you need a $1,500 PC for in school? I'm not blaming the teachers, of course. This is the ineptitude of districts across the states. But this is my problem. We need to get people who know what they're doing. The entire public school system needs to be redone. It actually has to be started from the beginning with real parents who probably have kids in school who are affected by these changes. We need to get actual human beings who experience these problems, not a bunch of upper class people who probably have all their kids in a customized private school. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyways, as we wrap up our fourth segment, are there any parting notes you'd like to go on before we move on to our another segment, which I guess is kind of related to this one?
Not that I can really think of.
All right, well.
Pretty much.
Pretty much it?
Yeah.
All right, well, if anyone would like to call in, the number is 719-284-5873 with the PIN 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the PIN 24777. Now, we are going to be moving on to our fifth topic. which is bullying. Now, I have some very unique opinions on bullying. Most people either have the opinion that short of attacking a person, nothing is bullying. Other people have the deal that even joking to someone innocently, not like an offensive joke, just an innocent joke about someone is bullying. I am in a middle ground. In but I was actually recently bullied in my school, but you got to understand that in my view, again, a lot of people think that bullying, anything short of like someone attacking, like physically attacking, like tackling someone else, is not bullying. Anything short of that, that is not true. And I'm actually going to talk about my experience here in a second. But Jet, before I do that, Jet, what are your opinions on bullying?
Probably similar to yours, right in between. I do believe sometimes people are a little bit undersensitive to things. I also believe sometimes they're also very oversensitive. Like, remember that time that, I mean, really, if everyone believed in the most extreme view bullying, which is even instantly joking about someone is bullying, I would have actually technically somewhat bullied you on one or two occasions. So, yeah, we both realized that's ridiculous.
Right. And Jed and I, hashtag IRL, we are actually close friends. Like we know what the bounds and limits are. We know what we can say, what we can't. We can be very open with each other. But if it's someone you don't know, like sometimes, in my view, if you are doing something to someone, and unless you're like mentally handicapped, you'll probably know what you're doing is hurting them, so short of them being mentally handicapped or you being mentally handicapped. Short of either of those things, if you're both normal people, you will probably understand. The difference is whether or not you apologize and admit that what you did is wrong, or if you don't care and keep doing it for your own or your friend's pleasure. Now, Jet, would you say you have ever been bullied?
Not really.
Like in whatever your opinion is, bullying. Would you say it's ever happened to you? In school, more
Not
specifically.
that I can't remember.
Uh,
I don't recall ever being bullied. It might be something when I was in like preschool that I don't really remember, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah, we're not counting like the super early years. So if we're not counting super early years, I have had, I believe it is 3 occasions when I've been bullied, and that's saying something because that's not much. That's not much at all considering how some kids get bullied. And one of those occasions was yesterday. And I wanted to bring this up because of the fact that and after I describe the story, you will probably agree that this was bullying. I feel nothing. I don't know if that's normal. I don't know if that's healthy or if that's not healthy. Maybe I should care more about other people's opinions. But I mean, I just don't care, man. But so I'm now going to go into the story. I'm going to tackle this more as a general thing after I go into this story. So I was promoting the show, the show that you are currently listening to. So technically, it is all of your fault that you're listening that I was bullied. No, I'm just messing with you guys. So I was promoting the show and everything. I walk up to this table of girls, and I ask them if they want some copies of the number for the show because I have like little slips which I give people with the number and all the info. So I give them the stuff. I give them the info. After they say yes, I think a couple of them even asked for copies, and then they make sure, and then they start like destroying it, and they don't like throw it in the trash and just don't notice that I'm in front of them or something. They start eating it, they start tearing it to shreds, they start folding it up into balls and throwing it at each other. They start turning it into confetti. They do everything with it, laughing at the top of their lungs. And it wasn't meant as an innocent joke. And let's be fair, you know it too. This is obviously nowhere near the most extreme case of bullying, but I'd like to count it as such because I do find this stuff important. I honestly tried to come up with the best stuff I could. And frankly, all of the people at that table were mean to me in one case or another. I honestly didn't care. I just gave them the number for the show because hashtag desperation. No, I just gave them the number for the show because it would be rude of me not to. So I give them the number for the show, and I can tell that some of the girls at that table, I believe it was out of the 4 girls there, I want to say maybe it was even only one, but I know at least one of them honestly felt bad for me, quietly giggled, and kind of looked at me sympathetically, like, define peer pressure, because a lot of this stuff is just peer pressure. I mean, this girl, she didn't do any of it. She just kind of didn't want to be ousted, so she just kind of sat and, like, with the most fake giggle that you can possibly ever hear, with the quietest voice that I guarantee you, if this girl was next to me right now, giggling the way she was, it would not pick up on this microphone. It's a pretty good microphone I got here. The resolution is pretty good. You can probably hear what Jed and I are saying as I hear it. But it's honestly like you would not be able to pick it up. And this is one of the things too. Like, so many of these quote unquote bullies are just like passerbys. I mean, in my view, people are way too sensitive to other people's opinions. Like, as an example, this girl. But I mean, it's only relevant to me if either the person is relevant to me or if the opinion is well presented and correct. This thing that happened to me in school yesterday did not faze me at all. I was a bit mad, yeah, because that really triggered me. You have no idea how long it took me to print it out and like start cutting around the edges and everything. Torturous. So yeah, I was more than a bit triggered, but I didn't get sad. I didn't get mad. And frankly, if I wanted to do that, and at that exact moment, I was really mad, but I was still kind of aware enough to understand that, since I live in Washington State and everyone is biased against people who are actually in the right, I'd probably get expelled if I did to them what I wanted to do to them at that exact moment. But you got to understand that unless it's something actually bad, why don't people just swallow it? That's actually something I want to ask you, Jeff. Why don't some people just swallow it?
But some people are just oversensitive, and others are just too stupid to realize that that's the right thing to do.
I mean, I'm not saying, and I don't want to confuse people. I am not for 1 second saying that if you are really badly or even kind of badly, like getting bullied like more than one time by the same person or people, or if it's anything like kind of serious, anything like that, like you don't. I'm not saying you let that stuff fly. But I'm not necessarily saying like you have to go all Liam Neeson on them, get your revenge. But it just really depends. Like, if someone beats you up on your way to school for no reason or for like little reason, like they asked for your lunch money and you said you needed it, and then they brought over a gang and beat you up, that's totally unfair. And you should completely report that. But if it's something like verbal, short of being absolutely terrible, like just some horribly like sexist or racist or just completely hitting hard on some personal note, people should really learn to just swallow it. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no. So, Jesse, how much longer is this going to be going on?
Oh, as long as you'd like it to. If you'd like to, you could leave at this exact moment. No hard feelings whatsoever.
Thank God. I'm going to stay around for this segment that I have to go.
Sorry, what'd you say?
I'll stick around for the end of this segment, but then I have to go.
I see. Yeah, and to those of you who don't know, this segment will be ending at 4:15. Jet, thank you so much for joining me. We're gonna love these last 6 minutes, and I've loved the last hour because this has been such an interesting conversation I've been having with you. Conversations, I suppose I should say. But anyways, back to the topic at hand, which is once again bullying. And real quick, I'd like to give away the number for anyone else who'd like to call in. The number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. But again, what I just don't understand is why some people honestly can't swallow it. Because sometimes that's just what you need to do. Like, sometimes the best way to make somebody mad is just not to pay them any heed. If you could just completely ignore your bully, again, assuming they're not doing like some terrible stuff to you, short of something like that. If you just don't pay any heed to your bully, like literally pretend they don't exist, like don't talk to them, don't look at them, just do nothing with them, pretend they're invisible, and unhearable and untangible and so on, they're going to get way madder than they probably made you. And frankly, they deserve it. That's honestly the best thing you could do. And I just don't understand why so many people get so triggered. Do you think it's like a generational thing, or do you think this has always been a problem that has never been vocalized until now? Jet?
Yeah.
Did you hear that question?
Yeah.
So what would you say about that?
I think it's probably a multi-generational thing. I mean, that's been a problem for a long time, and I don't.
You don't what?
Don't see them.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. Can you please repeat that?
I gotta go.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us, Jet. If anyone else would like to call in, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin at 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, thank you very much for joining us on the show, Jet. Loved your call, but anyways, we're going to keep going. And again, if anyone would like to call in, just gave you the number, and I'll be giving it again at the end of this segment. Wow, that was fast. But maybe Jet was right. I'm not sure what he meant by multi-generational. I mean, I know what he meant, but maybe like he has been bringing up the general 60s era many times. Like maybe he thinks it started there along with many other movements, which are questionable at best, terrible at worst. Actually, I wouldn't say at worst. It could go farther than worst. But I mean, this is just a fundamental problem with. I already talked about fundamental problems with school. Now I'm getting into fundamental problems with people, or at least kids. And I think this applies to real life too. Like people, and some people go to the extreme. Like some people kill themselves. Please, if you are undergoing bullying right now that is extreme, that you just cannot take, report it to somebody. But do not take any action like this against yourself. That is the last thing you should ever do. But like this is the thing, I don't understand why so many people take it so close to heart. What some idiot says. It's like if I get some spam caller on the show. I mean, you listen to it and you hear like, oh my gosh, this is a bunch of drivel. Well, it's a bunch of drivel, but it's the same thing that you're doing. It's a bunch of drivel that you are hearing. It's just the same dribble that I'm getting directed towards you. Maybe not the exact same, like change one thing, change another, but that's really it. There is no other major difference. It's just an idiot being an idiot towards you. And frankly, if you don't think that this person is an idiot, maybe you're the idiot. I went a bit too philosophical there for a second. I'm talking about bullying. And I think the same thing applies to cyberbullying. I know people were expecting me to bring this up, and frankly, I don't know why I'm doing this so late into the segment, but real quick, this is a good note to wrap up this section on. I think this applies to cyberbullying as well. If someone is like harassing you to the point of insanity, like they track you down on multiple accounts, send all kinds of like terrible things about just terrible stuff they're going to do to you, your family. They get really personal, like terrible stuff like that. They make alternate accounts after you keep blocking them. You report that to the police. You take a break for a while. You ask them, what do you want to get me away from you? You do any of that sort of stuff in that situation. Otherwise, you block them and move on with your life. Because people will be people, idiots will be idiots, and intelligent people will be intelligent people. The question is, which one will you be? Because you can't be both. You can't be intelligent and stupid. So you have to make the choice for yourself. Which are you? You're not born this way. This is a choice completely under your control. Anyways, we'll now be moving on to our 6th segment. This is, well, okay. I was really desperate to come up with an excuse because there is unbelievable amounts of stuff to cover here. Stuff that I am so excited to talk about. I can't even begin to tell you how excited I am to talk about this stuff. We have half an hour to do it. So there's going to be some time for me to do breaks and everything like that, because 15 minutes is not going to be enough. And I'll probably even do more segments, because this is even broader than the whole FouseyTube thing, which you know how long I dragged that on. Keemstar and Leafy. Typically on the segments on Keemstar, I'm probably going to draw it out like I am right now. So like technically this counts as 2 segments, one with Keemstar, another with Leafy, but this is called excuses. So from now until 4:45, I'm going to be talking about some of my favorite YouTube feuders. I know they're not exactly in the news right now, but I just really wanted to talk about them because let's be fair, not Leafy, but Keemstar will always be in the news one way or another. Keemstar is the pinnacle of drama. Actually, I'd say the only person of all time more popular than him, I think it could only be FouseyTube or PewDiePie. Short of them, pretty much nobody. And I'm not and because like people like Rice Scum, and the Gabby Show, Onision, Jacksepticeye, Jake Paul, Logan Paul, Daddy05, they will all most of them have faded into irrelevancy, including Leafy. I wanted to bring up Leafy because he's one of my favorite people to talk about, but they've all faded into irrelevancy except Keemstar, and that's why I'm so excited to talk about the man himself, the gnome himself, Keemstar. Once again, a lot of what I'm saying will be fact, a lot of it will be opinions. So I'll let you know what's fact, what's opinion, at least as far as I know. So there are many reasons why Keemstar and Leafy dislike each other. A lot of this has to do with Colossal is Crazy, and the Baited podcast, which is one of my favorite things to listen to when I'm like sleepy. Not sleepy, but just tired. I just turn on Colossal, Keemstar, and forgot the other guy's name, but you know, the one with the cool laugh. But I love that podcast. Like if you're okay with swearing and everything, go check out Baited podcast. That stuff's hilarious and really insightful. And that's why actually one of the reasons I wanted to talk about Leafy and Keemstar. So let's start with Keemstar. So those of you who don't know, Keemstar, aka Killer Keemstar, aka DJ Keemstar, aka DJ Killer Keemstar, aka Drama Alert. Oh, and aka Daniel Keem, his real name. So Keemstar, I'm gonna call him Keemstar because let's be fair, everyone calls him Keemstar pretty much. He runs a channel on YouTube called Drama Alert. It's got about, I think it's about 2 million roughly subs. And in raw entertainment, I find Drama Alert enjoyable. It just Keem, in my view, is a scummy person, so that's why I'm not subscribed to him. The only drama YouTuber or news YouTuber I'm subscribed to out of the 3 main ones is the starter of the franchise himself, Philly DeFranco. I know he has done some scummy stuff in the past, but nothing like what Keem has done, which I cannot make myself subscribe to Keem. At least not anymore after doing some more research on it because of some of the stuff he's done. Whereas I can do it with Philly D. Then there's Scarce, who is just boring. I mean, like, he actually reports the news. Like, Drama Alert, some of it's legit, some of it's fake, but even with the most boring story, Keemstar can make it interesting. If you have no moral compass and just want to watch pure entertainment, just head over to Drama Alert, man. If you want to find a good mix of the two, watch Philly D. And if you literally only care about the news, watch Scarce or Fox News. You'll get the same amount of realism. So Keemstar, let's start with the things why many people dislike him like Keemstar. One of the things I, of course, have to bring up immediately, and practically the only reason really that truly distanced me from Keemstar is the whole thing with Keemstar's kind of political views. Now, many people think Keemstar is some sort of racist. I personally don't think he is. It's impossible to prove. And of course, he would never admit to it. Again, I do not think Keemstar is racist. Although I do not like the use of racial terms in the sense that Keemstar used them. One time he used them when he got very mad. He's only used racist terms twice, as far as I know. At least twice that people have ever pointed out. One time with the time when he got mad on stream, the more famous of the two. He got mad at some guy, I don't know the whole scenario, and called him a word I will not repeat. And the second time he used the same word in a satirical skit. That really made me mad. He called it like evil Keemstar, something where he pretends to hate all his fans and something. Like, that is not okay. Just completely not okay. So, in my view, it's a one-sided thing. Now, Keemstar, it's so weird because Keemstar is a massive hypocrite. And this is just one example. Keemstar says he's against using the whole satire thing as a constant shield. Keemstar uses satire as a constant shield. And it's okay when you use it to an extent, but not to the extent that most people use it. As an example, with this second case I just told you about. He thinks it's okay to say bad, terrible things about people's race. But hey, satirical, which means it's funny, LOL, hashtag meme. That's not okay. That is totally not okay in my view. And he makes it sound like it's one of the big problems with many people these days, normal people and those in stardom, is people never look in the mirror. They tell other people to look in the mirror, but they never look in the mirror themselves. Everyone is such a big hypocrite nowadays. And it honestly makes me so mad. How Keemstar, like, he's a huge anti-hypocrisy proponent. Like, Keemstar claims to be a very black and white person. And on some matters he is. I'm not going to say that Keemstar is 100% pure evil, some sort of, satanic devil or anything. No, he isn't. There are many things where people have wrongfully accused Keemstar, and Keemstar did the right thing. Now, but the thing is, he claims to be a very black and white person, and he forces other people to be black and white. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but when you yourself are not black and white on everything, how can you expect other people to be and promote that message when you yourself are not doing that? That's the biggest thing about Keemstar. Now I'm going to bring up a case in which I completely and totally agree with Keemstar. Most people don't in this case, and I understand why. Because millennials, and this will make sense in a second, but I personally agree with Keemstar in this case. Sadly, I believe it's over. I think it's over a year now. A big YouTuber, I forget his name. Oh no, Total Biscuit sadly got cancer, and it was only discovered very late. And he made like a tweet talking about the fact that just wanted everyone to know that I have cancer and I'm going into recovery. And thank God he lived. As far as I know, I'm going to actually make sure of this right now. But initially, at least, Total Biscuit did survive. Thank God. And I don't know too much about him himself, but all he said was that he wanted people to keep this as a small thing. And I can sympathize with that. But the thing is, he made it public. And Keemstar, what he did was, he reported about this on Drama Alert, and it got more popularity. Yeah, he's still alive. But many people's problem is the fact that he said to keep it a small deal, and Keemstar reported about it on Drama Alert. The thing is, they're supposed to report the news. Keemstar did not dox him. Many people are calling it a doxing. I don't think Keemstar. I mean, the definition of a doxing is pretty much like, well, doxing, to those of you who don't know, or DOX, whatever you want to call it, it's pretty much, it's revealing someone's private info that they did not reveal themselves via hack or like confidential information. He revealed this publicly. And he didn't say that he didn't want people to share, at least I don't think. I don't know the actual tweet itself, but I believe it was, please don't make a big deal out of it. It wasn't like, don't tell anybody. And Keemstar just reported on this. Keemstar did not say to go flood his deal with sympathy. He didn't go, promote him or anything. Keemstar simply reported on this, as he should. It is his business to do so. because that's not doxing. There have been rumors of Keemstar doxing several people. I'm not sure if any of this has been confirmed or not. I believe there is some legal stuff with that, but I'm not going to go into that because, again, I don't know the whole story on that, and I don't think it's been confirmed. So officially, Killer Keemstar has never, at least not publicly, as far as I know. But yes, this is one thing where I think Keemstar was in the right. It is his business to report news that he finds illegally, because what he did is, I mean, you can argue the morality of it, but there's nothing purely wrong with it. It's not like he said, do not tell anybody, under no circumstances tell anybody, or like that this information was leaked by somebody. Like, no, Total Biscuit made the decision. He knew the repercussions of this. Henceforth, he did it. But yes, thank God that Total Biscuit is alive, though. That is one thing I'd like to say. Another case with Keemstar is, and again, I know I haven't brought up Leafy yet. I'm about to get into Leafy, the whole thing with iDubbbz and Keemstar. But I have not gotten into that yet because of the fact that I want to say that for the next segment, because there's only so much you can talk about regarding Leafy. With Keemstar, it's an infinite cove. I mean, there's so much to talk about with him. But anyways, Keemstar, he a while ago he called out falsely. Well, first of all, he called him out on his personal Twitter, and Keemstar himself has said that his personal Twitter and Drama Alert are two separate things. On his personal Twitter, he is he himself, and his personal Twitter is very flawed. I'm going to get into that probably on a separate show. And if you guys like the Keemstar segment, which I'm not sure if you will, but hopefully you guys will, I will be getting into the whole thing with Keemstar and his Twitter. But this has been confirmed by the man himself, by the man who runs Keemstar. He has said that his Twitter is he himself promoting his own opinions, whereas Drama Alert on YouTube is his news. Yes, it is mixed with his opinions, but he does come out and state what is his news, and what his opinions are. I feel like he does do that. He said he does that. And a majority of people, short of like complete Keemstar haters or those who don't know what they're talking about, a majority of people agree with this. So Keemstar, his reporting in and of itself, separating fact from news, at least fact as far as he knows it and reports it, is not bad. I will give Keemstar that. He does do that well. But a while ago, I forgot if it was on stream or on Twitter or something, but he, not as Drama Alert, he personally, oh no, sorry, no, he did call it out on Drama Alert. I'm sorry. He did call this guy out on Drama Alert. And he said that this one streamer, he basically badmouthed this streamer. He didn't badmouth him for no reason. He just got some false info. He then got flooded with hate on Twitter. And Keemstar then apologized, took down the video, made up an apology video, and then promoted his channel. And now I think this gentleman has one of the biggest, I think he's like a RuneScape streamer or something. He has one of the biggest, if not the, streamers out there for RuneScape because of the promotion that Keemstar did. And Keemstar has been so, I think to this day, Keemstar gets hate on this, or at least he has been recently and ever since this happened. And in my view, Keemstar made an honest, genuine mistake. He apologized for it, and then he went on with his life. And so did this streamer, who I believe forgave Keem. I mean. Anyways, we're nearing the end of this segment. We're about to move on to, I guess you could call it the second part of this segment, aka our 7th segment. If anyone would like to call in and talk, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Now back to the topic at hand, which is once again Keemstar. We're going to be transitioning pretty soon into Keemstar and Leafy. But yeah, the main problem with Keemstar's Twitter, I just want to get into this real quick, and trust me, I'm sure I'll do more in-depth stuff later. But the main problem with Keemstar's Twitter is the simple and pure fact that his Twitter, he runs it like two different people. On the one hand, he runs it as if he's Keemstar. He's running it as Keemstar and as Daniel Keem, which is his real name. On one hand, he's giving his real opinions and being completely serious about some things. On the other hand, he pretends to be serious and jokes around a lot. But he does this on the same Twitter. And to a lot of people, it can be confusing, even to some smart people, because some of the things he jokes about are, it's like unclear whether or not he's actually joking because it's not presented well. And the fact that the same Twitter account, that there's no talk of this, of when he's being Keemstar, when he's being Daniel Keem, that's the main problem, the fundamental flaw of Keemstar's Twitter account. Anyways, we will now be transitioning onto our 7th segment and the final quarter of the show. I know I sound like I'm dead tired, but hey, I really love doing this, so I'm gonna carry on. I'm gonna keep coming. Once again, I know I keep doing this a lot, but once again, if anyone would like to call in, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Anyways, before I get onto our next topic, which is Leafy, partially Keemstar, but mostly Leafy, I just like to say, have you noticed how many spam callers we've gotten so far? Told you my system was working. Hopefully this number will remain the same for the rest of the show and the rest of the shows. Or at least will not go much higher. Anyways, as I was saying, back to Leafy. To those of you who don't know, Leafy is here. He's kind of like YouTube royalty. A lot like Philip DeFranco and the Shaytards. To summarize, he invented the commentary genre. To those of you who don't know, the commentary genre is basically commentating on other videos or events with like some gameplay in the background or something, typically. This genre of video was practically invented by Leafy. And his channel at one point started blowing up like crazy because of this. Now, I'm also very split on Leafy. I'm also, by the way, leaning against him. I have many friends. Here's the interesting thing. Most of my friends, actually no, all of my friends are anti-Keemstar. This includes me. Most of my friends are pro-Leafy, and I can understand why, because Leafy is one of the biggest advocates against people who are, in my view, worse than him, such as FoozyTube. I'm not sure about Keemstar. No, I would say that. No, I'd say Leafy's worse than Keemstar. Like if it came down to defending Leafy or Keemstar, I'd defend Keemstar probably. I mean, in general, not talking about specific cases. But anyways, getting into Leafy, the first thing that I super dislike about Leafy that everyone can agree on is his PewDiePie-esque humor. But then again, so many people are doing that on YouTube now. It just disgusts me. But that's a separate topic that I've already, I think, done to death. Then there's, let's see what else. There's, of course, the fact that Leafy cannot take criticism. This is another thing I, of course, dislike about Leafy. The fact that he cannot take criticism. You look at the iDubbbz content cop on him, which, by the way, completely killed his career. If anyone was wondering why Leafy is no longer in the news or anything like that, that's because of iDubbbz. iDubbbz made a content cop on him, and iDubbbz is kind of viewed as YouTube police. If you make bad content, you deserve to be called out on it. And if your channel is ready to die, or like maybe your channel is doing fine, but if it's about to go, even if it's doing fine, there's only one person who can take it down with one video. That is iDubbbz. iDubbbz can destroy your entire career. Let me put it this way. With 2 videos, it took iDubbbz 2 videos. First, he made a content cop. Then Leafy responded to it and made a bunch of terrible points. Then iDubbbz made another content cop. And I do have some problems with iDubbbz, but I'd say iDubbbz is on the whole better than Leafy and Keemstar. But iDubbbz makes a lot of great points about Leafy in his first video and in his second, and then Leafy makes terrible points in his response to iDubbbz's response to. Wait, this is so confusing. Leafy's so first iDubbbz makes his content cop on Leafy, then Leafy makes a response to iDubbbz's content cop, then iDubbbz makes a second content cop responding to Leafy's video, responding to iDubbbz's content cop. Then Leafy makes a second response video responding to iDubbbz's second content cop, which responded to Leafy's response to iDubbbz's first content cop on him. And at this point, Leafy started losing subscribers, and he's been doing so ever since. Maybe he's slowly gaining or losing, but Leafy's pretty much fallen out of irrelevancy after that. iDubbbz killed his channel. People stopped subscribing to him after he was beautifully and masterfully debunked by iDubbbz. iDubbbz stopped 2016's fastest growing channel. Leafy was growing faster than PewDiePie, Markiplier, and Jacksepticeye. Jacksepticeye, of all people, who has been gaining subscribers at an unreal rate. And Leafy was gaining subscribers faster than him. And iDubbbz just snapped his fingers, and like Leafy was caught dead. iDubbbz, I do not believe iDubbbz has ever stopped anyone bigger than himself. Well, actually, but he has stopped people about his size. Like, Jinx was the first guy he like stopped dead in his tracks. Jinx was about 3 million. He stopped Leafy, and they were both at about 4.5 million at this point. Then there's Keemstar. Well, no, Keemstar is smaller than him. Keemstar, 2 million. He never did one on FouseyTube, which fascinated me. It's all I can think about at the moment. If you know any other people that iDubbbz has debunked, let me know. I'm gonna look this up right now, see how it's going. I'm gonna look up my man iDubbbz. And we're gonna look at how many the content cops he's made. Of course, the number one result after iDubbbz content cop is iDubbbz content cop song, because that thing is the catchiest thing. How to prank it up? They were really big, actually. So it was nice that he debunked them. And that's the only other. Actually, hold on. How to prank it up? I think he has like 10 mil. Oh no, 3.4. Okay, never mind. So yeah, so still smaller than iDubbbz. So iDubbbz has never debunked anybody bigger than himself. But still, it's amazing what he's been able to do, because Leafy would have surely been bigger than iDubbbz. And he was definitely a lot more popular at that time. So props to iDubbbz for that. But anyway, so Leafy just cannot take criticism. I feel like Keemstar can, to an extent. Not much, but I feel like Keemstar can take criticism. Leafy can't. Another thing. In Leafy's early rise to power, as I like to call it, because that's really the only way to describe it. It's like a dictatorship kind of takeover. No. But seriously, he rushed it so much. Like he screwed everybody and their brother to get to the top. This was actually talked about a lot on the Baited podcast with H3H3. So there was a whole thing with Leafy, Pyrocynical, another commentator who I don't particularly like, and yeah, Leafy, Pyrocynical, and H3H3. None of which I really like. I know I dislike a lot of people. Basically, at one point, H3H3. Okay, Pyrocynical made a video joking a bit too much about I believe this is the situation as far as I know. Don't quote me on this. H3H3 makes a video. I'm sorry, Pyrocynical makes a video on H3H3. With a bit too much joking, at least for H3H3 videos. Most people didn't view it as too much. I haven't seen the video myself, so I can't talk about this. H3H3 replies with this brutal, this like terribly personal video, like completely digging into them. I guess something Pyrocynical must have hit home, because this is a brutal response video. I saw that thing. That thing was brutal. Just completely slammed him to the ground. Way more than most people say he deserved. At which point, Pyrocynical pretty much makes a "whoa, please chill out, I'm only a human" kind of video. Like, please stop. My channel is so much smaller than yours, and do I deserve this, honestly? You know, like, it was really kind of like a heart-to-heart kind of thing. And H3H3, he gets in a private chat with Pyrocynical and gives him this deep, heartfelt apology. This is a huge thing on YouTube. Stuff like this is huge. An apology, because honest apologies almost never happen on YouTube. This was an honest apology from a big content creator. Now, what do you think Pyrocynical does? He turns to Leafy, gives Leafy the story. And again, H3H3 did not give him permission. So he gives Leafy the story. Leafy exposes it, because he had a deal with Pyrocynical. Like, they said that they'd, like, you know, something like along the lines of, like, we'll release it at the same time, or we'll split whatever ad revenue there is 50-50. Then Leafy seriously rushed himself and released it way ahead of time. So H3H3 got double screwed over. Pyrocynical got screwed over once, but Leafy wound up on top. Isn't it the scummiest thing you've ever heard? So yeah, that might be puts Leafy down But then again, I do have to give Leafy some props. He does do rants from time to time. He rants on certain people. In my view, too much. Like, he made like 4 videos on Keemstar, and he does make a lot of good points. I think he goes too far into Keemstar. Like, he goes way too far into Keemstar. But he does make some actually pretty good rants. Like, his rant on Onision, I think, was beautiful. And he has made some really good counter arguments against Fuzi too, which I think are great. So that's a point for Leafy. I'm not like this terrible anti-Leafy person, but I feel like with everything Leafy has done, I just do not like the guy. Same with Pyrocynical. Although Pyrocynical, I do have to give Pyrocynical some deal, because it's not like H3 specifically said do not put this out or anything. It just but it was still pretty scummy what Pyrocynical did. But nowhere near as scummy as what Leafy did, where he slammed both H3 and Pyrocynical at once. But yeah, that was an interesting saga on YouTube. Sorry if it sounds like my voice is fading a bit. I am fine. It just I got like allergies and everything, so sorry if you hear that noise from time to time. That really ugly sounding sniffle. Anyways, we have a couple minutes left in our segment about Leafy. If anyone would like to call in, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, we are now currently in our 7th segment, which is about Leafy is here, and all the different things with him. And just, anything on YouTube in general, YouTube drama related to him. Now I'm going to check some stuff out real quick. Yeah, things seem... I'm just doing a quick check of system. Yeah, everything's good. All right, perfect. Yeah, I was a bit afraid that this, that the way I am getting rid of spam callers. Yeah, no spam callers have actually called in, but I'm afraid of like what I'm doing will like screw up other calls, or like I'll screw up or something, or like it'll screw up the recording or something like that. But luckily so far nothing like that has happened. The only way to know for certain if it works is if we get a spam caller. We're gonna see if this works once and for all. Again, only once we get a spam caller, and I will let you know if it works. But again, I will not tell you what it is, because some of the smarter spam callers will figure out how to get around it. So yeah, that's basically the deal with Leafy, and it is kind of nice that he's out of the news though. That is one thing I like, that people finally stopped giving him attention. Well, actually, they finally stopped giving him attention for a while now, but I don't know. It's just kind of nice that they did this. Because it's like all these stupid Hollywood celebrities. They do not deserve this much attention. They're nobodies. It's not like political analysts and scientists, politicians, or people of relevance. These are Hollywood celebrities. They dance around in movies like monkeys for us, for our entertainment. They are not some sort of god that can tell, like, for half said in the Bible that if you did not listen to Jennifer Lawrence's terrible political opinions, Mother Nature herself will come down on you. I'm going to talk about that in our final segment, but we're going to get into that soon. Although, one thing I do like about Leafy is the fact that he does get real sometimes. I know I've been going very anti-Leafy, and I think I went a bit too hard on Keemstar. Maybe I'll do some more pro Keemstar stuff next time, or at least make it more balanced. But I feel like I'm doing it a bit better with Leafy. I'm getting it a bit more balanced. One thing I like about Leafy is that he is relatively honest with his viewers. Like, as an example, at one point there was a little bit, not much, a little bit, and considering it's Leafy, of course, a little bit is blown out of proportion, but not as badly as it could have been blown out of proportion. At one point there was this YouTuber, Billy the Fridge, who is, by the way, still kind of relevant. He's never been really relevant. He's just kind of floating in that in-between area, but he's been there for a while, so his channel is gaining traction. I actually like Billy the Fridge. He's pretty funny. I haven't seen too much of his stuff, but from what I have seen, he's actually relatively funny. I like the guy, Billy the Fridge. He's this massive guy, by the way. He's like, you'll think it's like a stunt double or something. Like, no, this is actually him. But anyways, he was filming some skits with Leafy at one point. But before he let Leafy in on the fact that he was actually planning on doing a skit with him, he made videos like, he made all kinds of like Leafy is here hate videos, which were like so out there ridiculous that they were practically unbelievable. But you see, when you're an internet celebrity, a celebrity at all, much less an internet celebrity, you know, nothing is impossible. Let's be fair, nothing is impossible. So Leafy actually makes like this entire video being like, "Are you actually gonna eat me as part of your dinner, or do you want to make a skit, or like, you know, like he's kind of like freaking out." But they actually did make some skits, and they're actually relatively funny. Um, but yeah, I do gotta give some props to Leafy. Like he doesn't mess around. He doesn't typically like to lie to his viewers. Like he typically tries to give them the best facts. It just Leafy can be terrible when he's as a vengeance. And I'll go probably. There's so much I left out with the two of them. I feel like I can easily do at least one more section with each. Easily. Probably more than that. But anyways, we are now going to be moving on to our final segment, which is movies. I wanted to talk about this because today I saw the new Kingsman. But before we go into that, for these final 14 minutes of the show, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873. Sorry. Yo, did I just accidentally give away my real phone number? Hold up. Don't tell me I actually just did that. I'm gonna have to scrap this episode if I just did that. Please don't tell me I just. Did I just accidentally give away my real phone number? Hold on. Don't tell me I actually did. 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873. Oh my gosh, I didn't. Okay, sorry for that weird little lapse of my mind there. That was terrifying. I thought for sure I gave away my real phone, or like part of my real phone number. Because I have a real phone. Like I don't use I don't always use I don't use a computer as my real phone, of course, especially when it's not my computer. But yeah, last thing I want is to have, because I can't exactly use the same spam caller approach on my actual phone as I can on here. I'm not going to be taking calls for the show on my personal phone. Yikes, that would have been scary. But no, that's good. So yeah. Let me repeat that again. The number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Now, I saw Kingsman: The Golden Circle today. And let's just look this up. So the original ratings on Kingsman 1. I don't know why. Did I just look up Kingsman 11? I did. Kingsman 1. Now I looked up Kingsman 1. I look up Kingsman Secret Service, and that's apparently it was, the release date. I thought it was 2015. I'll look into it. But anyways, on IMDb it's 7.7 stars. It's pretty much 3.9. Yeah, 3.9 stars right out of in normal terms, which in my view is a terrible underrating of it. I thought that first movie, perfect 5 stars, nothing wrong with it at all. Now the new Kingsman got 7.4 out of 10, also known as 3.7 stars. I think that's pretty fair. Well, maybe a bit more than that, maybe 4 stars. But you see, Kingsman 1 gets a perfect 5 stars because Kingsman is meant to be kind of like James Bond. This movie got all deep and political and this and that and yuckity. And I just feel like that's not what Kingsman is meant to be. Kingsman is meant to be a shootity, bang bang, hero in love with the girl kind of a thing. And that's what they really did with the first Kingsman. And by the way, it's rated R, and there's a reason it's rated R. Trust me on that. If you don't have a problem with swearing and a bit of gore, then it's fine for you. But if you do, don't go watch it. But that was the first movie was just such an amazing experience, and the second one was almost as good. And then it got all political, and it's even weirder because they were too afraid to even take a stance. Like they talked out of both sides of their mouths. On one hand, it seems like the president figure was meant to be like Donald Trump, or like they wanted to make him look like Donald Trump, even though they made the president in the movie bad. On the other hand, in the beginning of the movie, you see him at the DNC, which stands for Democratic National Committee, which I don't get at all. Then when he's impeached at the end of the movie, they have a lady kind of like Hillary take over. It's very confusing. And I guess they paint her out to be kind of a good guy. Then there's the whole thing about recreational drugs, which is a big part of the movie. Like, should it be legalized or not? Because like on the one hand, they're showing like it does bad things to you. On the other hand, they're making the bad guy be the people against it, and the good guys being the people who don't think the punishment for it should be death. Kind of weird. Kind of weird. But on the whole, the movie I'd say is definitely worth watching. The first movie was worth seeing in theaters. No doubt in my mind. Kingsman: The Secret Service was worth seeing in theaters. Not a doubt in my mind. I will not retract that statement. I can't imagine any reason I would, because that amazing movie. Kingsman 2, I feel like you can rent it. I feel like you should still watch it if you were a fan of the first one, but you can definitely rent it. And I just don't get why they did this. They overcomplicated it for themselves. If they would have just stuck with the main plot of the story and everything, without all this other philosophical garbage, and like, I just feel like it could have been so much better if they would have made it simpler, not more complicated, simpler. I don't know. It seems kind of inept to me. But I could be wrong, because it seems like the ratings between Kingsman: The Secret Service and Kingsman Golden Circle relatively close. So if you agree with me, if you disagree, or if you want to talk about peanuts, well, don't call into the show if you want to talk about peanuts. But if you have something related to movies, could be Kingsman, doesn't have to be Kingsman, but if you have something related to movies, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Sorry, I ran out of water like an hour and a half ago, a bit less than that, but around an hour and a half ago. So I'm kind of like dying of dehydration right now. But sadly, we only have a couple minutes left of the show, so hopefully I'll be able to do it next week. And by the way, this is a perfect deal to talk about last week's show, because we went to see American Assassin, another rated R movie, but you got to understand that American Assassin, 5-star movie, screw Rotten Tomatoes. They do not know what they're talking about. These stupid critics, they don't know what they're talking about. American Assassin is a masterpiece. 5-star movie, no question. Great views, accurate to the book, great characters, great cast. Everything in it was just so great. I feel like there were a couple little moments that they could have, that they overdid a bit in terms of just overall, that I'm not going to go into too much, but like in some parts they made it a bit too graphic. Irene Kennedy is not at all how they make her out to be. Well, at least the way she looks in the movie and the way she looks in the books are extremely different. And so on and so on. But like, I really like this. American Assassin was just great, and they totally set it up for the sequel, which I'm prepared for. I am prepared for that. They just made it, and they also gave it the same political, right-leaning views that they gave the books, and that's one of the things too. So many people, they turn non-political books into political movies. Harry Potter, for instance. I don't know. Yeah, I think that was one of the ones. On the other hand, they turn political books into non-political movies. I mean, in the exception of cases where the politics are left-leaning. In that case, they definitely do it. You look at Atlas Shrugged as an example. I mean, that movie was nowhere near as good as it was in book form. They did it intentionally. But I feel like American Assassin got it down perfect. And Kingsman could have too, if they either just went in the other direction or just cut it dead. But, well, no, actually, just cut it dead. Not even the first option, just cut it dead. Kingsman is not meant to be some political whatever, political drama. It is meant to be a spy, shooty, pew-pew movie. Really deep. The Mitch Rapp books have always had a different level of... They've always had like a general theme or something about them that just really attaches you to the characters and makes you think about the whole scenario. The Mitch Rapp books have always been deeper, whereas Kingsman isn't. That's the thing. People have got to stop changing stuff, trying to do all these new things. You find something that works. If it works well, you try to do better. If it doesn't work well, you literally change everything. If it works perfect, you don't change that formula. You change it enough to the fact where it's not like episode 4 and episode 7, which Jed and I talked about earlier in this show. But you don't leave it. But you don't change it so much that like you should stick to a very consistent formula if you get it right. Although, but then again, that doesn't always work. Like it would have worked in this case, and I feel like they could test this. I'm not sure what the difference is. I haven't really thought about that. I mean, I have, but I haven't figured it out. But like in the case of the Despicable Me movies, that's what they did really, at least with Despicable Me 2. And that movie was nowhere near as good as the first one, whereas 3 was. I don't know why. Just 3 was, 2 wasn't. And Minions, they went way off, and you get a horrible abomination like Minions. But I mean, I don't know what happened in that case, but in most cases, there's typically a formula for a certain kind of movie that you will like that should always be followed consistently in and out. I mean, that's just me. I could be totally wrong on this. But I mean, that's personally what I think. A lot of people like it when they change it up from the books. A lot of people like it when they keep it exactly the same. I think you should keep it relatively similar books, but I don't know, and just go from there really. But don't go too far from there. Anyways, now I'm gonna look through some new movies that have come out, give my personal opinions on them. First of which you know I'm gonna bring up Lego Ninjago movie. How is it rated higher than Kingsman? I can guarantee you it's terrible. In fact, when I talked to my sister, the ratings were higher. Or sorry, they were lower than they are now. But I can guarantee you that movie is terrible. I can guarantee it. Because Lego movies, man, just stay away from them. Like Lego shows, like I don't know how they made the show as good as it was. It wasn't a great show. It wasn't even a good show. It was just okay. But I can guarantee you this movie's bad. Then you look at Battle of the Sexes. They got 86%. This is the same reason Zootopia got like 92%. It's complete political bias. Wow, I am tired. Then there's Gaga 5'2", which is, I believe, a documentary-ish-esque thing about Lady Gaga. About as exciting as you'd think it'd be, but 70% because Lady Gaga. No. Oh my gosh, they made a sequel to the Garbage Pail Kids. Unbelievable. They made a sequel to the... No way. The Garbage Pail Kids. Oh my gosh, that movie. That movie was terrible. That movie was awful. IMDb gave it 2.7 stars out of 10, also known as 1.4 stars out of 5. Google gave it 33%. They actually made a sequel. I've never seen it myself, and I never want to. It has 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. That tells you all you have to know. Unbelievable. What I have to know though is there a sequel to Food Fight? I know I'm kind of getting a bit loopy here since we're so far in. Yeah, a couple movies which I highly recommend you never watch. Food Fight, just Food Fight, Birdemic. There you go, Birdemic, Shock and Terror, and Food Fight. Please don't, because no, please no. I beg, no. I don't know how Food Fight got a PG rating. It for my little mini series I have on these shows where I review new movies and ones that I don't like. Wow, I'm loopy. I'm tired. I'm gonna look back at this episode in a couple of weeks or I don't know, something like that, and I'm gonna be like, wow, that was a massive waste of time. Anyways, hope you're all having a good day, mates. I think I'm gonna be signing off for now. I'm gonna go get some rest, get some water, play some video games. I still have to do my math homework today.